Hey guys, so I had a few minutes just kind of chill out, so I figure why not go to the mobile office and talk a little bit about render. I haven't talked about it in quite a while, but I just want to give things that I'm very bullish about with it. Now, full transparency, I used to have render in my spot bags, and I don't anymore. Right? In short, I had to pay off some things like taxes, a couple other stuff that required some finances I didn't fully expect. And so I sold for minimal profits. I really would have wished more. And then after I sold it off, the amount that I left, I just traded in other coins at that point because I would have rather just expanded the other bags versus keeping the size of render that I did. Well, that being said, I'm still a huge fan of render. I think it's one of the best AI picks. It just has been underperforming for the last year or so, right? We saw it hit around, I think it was a little over $12, and then it's been really struggling to get anywhere too far out of the range, about $3.50. And a lot of that has to do with just the AI narrative hasn't picked up again yet. Everything goes in swings. Right now, we're mostly just with Ethereum, and some large caps are, I think they're starting to trickle in. We'll know more in the next couple of days to maybe 2 weeks at tops. But render, and then if I have to throw out the other one out there, is BitTensor Tau. All right, I think those are the two granddaddies of AI. I'm very open to arguments of hearing a couple others, but obviously those are two of the bigger ones. And once you see Tau start moving, because I think that's going to be the first one in terms of AI we see, mostly because it's the largest and arguably the most well known. At that point, I'll be looking to see how the other AI coins, including Render, are doing. Now, Render's large enough on its own with all of the projects it's been in, the backing that it has, to move well on its own just with one large announcement. But until that happens, there's a couple other things I think we should just know about and keep in mind for Render. So whether you're looking to get into an AI play, or you just like, you know what, I own Render, but I haven't really rethought about why I liked it in a while, let me go over some things that I think are very good about Render and worth you looking into, doing your own research a little bit more to see if this is something you want to get into, or just, yep, I like Render. Let's hop into this. So first and foremost, it's what Render does, right? Yes, it does rendering, and it also helps stockpile GPU power, which is a big freaking deal, specifically the more the AI gets involved. Its ability to collect a bunch of GPUs worldwide just to allow and enable a bunch of artists, studios, film production companies, everything to seamlessly render videos with all the excess GPU just makes everything a lot faster. It's really just a good niche, right? I mean, Render is not the only one that does this. It was the first one that really did it and did it well. So it's always going to get the credit for it of being the first one, and at least for a long time, it's going to get the credit of being the best one because it came out and it did it well. With that is the high profile partnerships. Again, if you are in Render and you don't know that the CEOs of Render and NVIDIA are essentially drinking buddies, well, one, kudos to you just for picking good crypto based off of something else, but networking and who you know that knows who always matter. This is why a lot of people kind of coined the term, hate that I just said that, Render is NVIDIA's crypto, because though it's not, they are tightly niched together. They've worked together on several different things. They go to a lot of conferences together. They talk about each other all the time. And if you have a crypto company that's tied into a standard stock, NVIDIA is not a bad one. It's kind of the largest one, isn't it? One of the top three. Always up there. It's also had direct partnerships with Apple. And I know Apple's a little smaller compared to NVIDIA, right? But when you have, again, at their own conferences, when they're talking about their new products and they mention, oh yeah, by the way, we use Render to help us out with these things. These are connections that it builds hype, and I really do think a lot of people forgot about this, where if the CEO of Render or someone, even just a third party person, comes out and just announce, oh yeah, it's awesome that Render is still working with Apple, NVIDIA, and then Paramount Productions. I mean, that's a big deal, and I think people need to reinvestigate and bring these things back up, because I think we all kind of forgot and got numb to the whole situation, which I think is in part why price action's been so low. But yeah, Paramount Pictures. Render helped out with, it was the one Star Trek movie. That was the big one they did, but they've worked on so many other things. And just getting a little bit of a rep sheet like that is always nice, but it shows that it's used, and it can be used to a very large extent. And the production value is certainly there. Another big one is the Blender collaboration. So in short, you can look a little bit more into what Blender does, but it really just unlocked millions of users towards being able to use Render and open up a lot of fresh partnerships through the Blender open source 3D software, and allowed other giants like Adobe, Pixar, Netflix to allow millions of different creators to centralize GPUs very effortlessly into and tie all of this in. So it helps make the connection of large companies to be able to use all the GPU power to do all their rendering or any other aspects they need to do with it. This creates a great little flywheel of adoption, because you get Apple coming here to showcase Blender in events. So you just have other parts of this circle that are connecting all advertising for each other. And again, if you're going to get tied into a couple of companies, having it be NVIDIA and Apple, and then side note on Blender, is an amazing opportunity. And they're constantly making revenue, right? Render is constantly doing projects, and they have a nice little system that I look for in crypto. It's not a requirement for me, but burn mechanisms. Oh my gosh, I love burn mechanisms and buybacks. Both of them help out with the anti-inflationary model, which is something that's, I don't care much about inflation, but you can stop it from happening. Now I really care about it, because they have a burn to mint little cycle, to where depending on what you use it for or on what end you are of it being used, it'll either burn off tokens or mint new ones, which helps control the rate that they're made and keeps it into a usable amount. So we don't, in theory, right, end up with more render tokens than what we actually need, which is a great way of keeping price action stabilized, as opposed to constantly plummeting down if there ends up being decreased use, right? So at times of higher use or lower use, at the very least, we don't usually go worse in terms of how the crypto is doing tokenomics and revenue. So in short, what happens is that artists or individuals who are using Render are going to pay in USD. Well, they pay in USD. So the sort of how it gets burned and minted is that when Render is being used, a little bit gets burned off. And then when GPU nodes are done doing a job, so to speak, a little bit more gets made. So for one end of being used, we lose some. Finishing it, we end up making some back. Again, it's just a good way of cycling this, making a nice little flywheel of constant token usage. It helps keeps things very stable, makes it deflationary, and it allows kind of there to be rewards for the node operators for using it. So yeah, I like this type of system. I think Render has it down very well. Render with advertising, they go to every effing conference they can. And they get announced when Apple is showing off their new iPhone. Right? I mean, they just have the CEO walk in, and there you go. They end up making an announcement stating it. NVIDIA gets talked about. They do their own RenderCon. There's another smaller render-like event they do every year as well, I believe. But they're constantly going out, talking about what they're doing, making connections, shaking hands. And for long-term growth, that's what we need, right? Short-term price action is always about hype, is the what-if question. Well, these things are happening, so what if this occurs because of it? Where now we have some crypto that have been around for 1 or 2 cycles. You know, these are now dinosaurs if they're over 4 years old. But those are the companies that have actually had time to make the connections. And yeah, they tend to be a little bit more stable. I mean, I can name a lot of these tokens that don't move at all until they do, right? HBAR, XRP, Quant, Polygon is currently in that kind of state. We'll see if that one ever jumps up and moves this cycle. But Render's doing all the right things for a business standpoint. We're just waiting as investors for the price action to go back to where it was. So in short, Render is a very solid crypto. I've always loved the tokenomics. I've always liked the team that they end up having. I keep a little up to date with them because I'm never against going back in on Render. I'm fully open to the idea of it, specifically as when I take profits from one crypto moving to the other. I just personally need a little bit more guarantee that the AI narrative is going to hit again before I end up buying it, right? like I'm pretty heavy in RWAs, and that's where I've got my full confidence going into it, is RWA, tokenization, CBDCs, etc. But as I start seeing BitTensor Tau specifically move a little bit, or maybe one of these times I'll pull up the render chart, if we start seeing very bullish patterns of where I think it's going to start going, I'll move something I've already made 5 to 10x into in the RWA sector and transfer it over to render to ride the AI wave on a large market cap. Fully for it. But let me know, what do you guys think? I know this was a very quick, kind of loose based video. I didn't go into many details because frankly, I just didn't want to. I'd rather go the larger stuff, let you guys think, oh, let me look more into this so you can get it for your own information, specifically if you own Render. All right, so if you invest in the token and anything I told you didn't know, go back and research your crypto a little bit, specifically if you're getting nervous about price action. Because I've always noticed, at least for me, one of the best ways of rebuilding my confidence in crypto when I'm starting to lose a little bit because price action drops is research the damn thing. Build that conviction into why you bought it in the first place. So guys, let me know what you thought about Render in general. AI, is most of your crypto in the AI sector? Do you have a little bit more in other places and you just dabble like me? Let me know what your guys' thoughts are. I'll talk to you guys again soon. Peace.